I'm your host, Lou Carter, founder of Most Loved Workplace. The Leader Show brings together executives and leading thinkers to bring into focus our collective purpose and passion for what we do and where we do it. The search for occupational fulfillment, happiness, pride, and passion starts here. Hey, everybody. We're here today on the Newsweek Leader Live Show. It's a great show today. We have another Most Loved Workplace, another Newsweek, and certified Most Loved Workplace. Today, it's Goodway Group. And we have the CEO of Goodway Group, Jay Friedman, on with us today. He's going to tell us all about Goodway Group, how they became a Most Loved Workplace, also advise to other entrepreneurs, to other businesses about what he's learned really in transforming the digital marketplace and what he can and has done inside of his company, the Goodway Group, which has had massive amounts of success. Jay, welcome to our show today.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Hey, let's start with you, Jay, and Goodway Group, so people get level set, number of employees, how much business you do, what business you do, so we can get sort of set in the reality and facts around it.
Yeah, Goodway Group is really an overarching company for we have three kind of ad agency marketing services firms, just to make it very simple. We've got Tough Growth, which is TUFF Growth, and they are a growth marketing agency. We've got Goodway Group, which is the namesake, which is just the straight marketing services and advertising services firm. And then we've got CVE, or Control versus Exposed, which is the consulting and marketing operations firm. All told, we're about 550 people around the world, and that's up from when I started in 2006, which seems longer and longer every time I say it. But that's up from about 30 people then. And of course, the company was founded in 1929. My partner Dave is the third generation. So his grandfather started the company, and I'm the first non-family member to be into the CEO spot. So no pressure.
So there's a lot of things to unpack here. Number one, being a non-family member CEO, that's big because trust is a big issue, I would assume. And how did you gain that trust? Really, the first thing is, and number two, 500 people throughout the globe. Wow. So how do you manage and know everybody around the globe and know what's happening to create this great culture that you've developed?
Yeah. So in terms of building trust, I think of course, do what you say you're going to do. And the integrity component is, do what you would do if no one was looking, or if someone's looking, it doesn't matter. And that there was that, but really it was just an intense amount of communication, especially over the first, 7 to 10 years of understanding what was important to Dave and making sure I could deliver on essentially the family promise and the family values that he brought, and then creating a culture and creating a workplace where he felt that it lived up to everything that he and his family had grown to represent. So there's that on that side, and then 550 folks around the globe, and we've been remote since 2010, so like pretty fully remote since 2010. And I often get a question or ask the question, how do you create a culture when you're fully remote? The answer is the culture forms whether you're remote or in person. Culture is a set of stories, beliefs, and symbols. And so it is up to the company to manage the creation and the federation of those stories, beliefs, and symbols. Otherwise, your employees will do it for you. And so what we use, and I'd say the foundation of our culture and our approach, is what we call the infinity loop, which is, I find a lot of folks saying, we're a client first organization, or we're an employee first organization. I think that's a little bit like saying, if I had to prioritize my heart or my brain, I would prioritize, well, you can't, you need them both. And so the infinity loop is everything we do for our clients has to benefit our employees, and everything we do for our employees has to benefit our clients. And as long as we follow along with that, we're in really good shape.
I like that. Looking at the system as a whole, rather than as one. Because when, some may say that employees, put employees first and customers will be helped the most, right? Customer service goes up, employees go first. You're saying the whole ecosystem has to be very well attained, well attributed to, very strong.
Yeah, we have to feed both. We have to feed both with excellence, because they really do help each other. When we do great work for our clients, our employees learn and grow their skills. When we do great things for our employees, our clients benefit from grown employees and improved employees in the market.
So going back to the family, because this is interesting what you said about the values. I liked how you said that, because that most likely had a big influence on how you lead, how your customers are treated, how your employees are work within, right? And so how everybody, what are they like? Tell me about the Goodway Group values from the family themselves.
Yeah, and so I want to be clear that it's the families with an apostrophe S values, as opposed to family values, which are, it'd be great if workplaces could be families, but they are communities and companies, and we have to go with that. But the families values, we did the exercise and we sat around and we thought through the values and everything. But ultimately, what we did was we eschewed values in favor of behaviors. And so we have 22 behaviors or so. And because values, I think the way I look at it is, how many driving laws are there? There's a lot of driving laws. You can't recite them all from scratch or by heart, but you generally know them. And if the only driving laws were drive friendly, be considerate, share the road, it'd be really hard for the police to pull you over and say, I don't think you were driving friendly. And so there are very specific rules, like turn on your signal before you switch lanes. And so we have very specific behaviors with descriptions, and here's what it looks like when you do it well, and here's what it looks like when you don't do it well. So for example, stay on the right side of helpful. It's very specific. It's important for people to be helpful to their coworkers, but there are times where you could maybe take over your coworker's job and start doing the work for them, and that's not on the right side of helpful. But to just say teamwork isn't enough.
One of those things that's interesting is there's a big difference between help and support, right?
That's great, yeah.
Because that's the other side of helpful, isn't it? Going too far, and doing too much support rather than just giving what they need, the resources, whatever it may be. So there is a dysfunctional or disabled element of helpful. That's what you're teaching and helping people to realize.
Yeah, all good has the potential to bleed into not good. And I think that is one of the things that I see really across anything, is when something like that, for example, gets twisted to say, but I was being helpful. But in reality, someone knows they really weren't being helpful. Like the intent was not there. And so, but that's another one of our behaviors, is assume positive intent. It's easy in a remote workplace. You're behind a screen. We all know what happens when people get behind a screen and go on social media. Nothing good. But you're behind a screen, and it's easy to read into text and say, geez, I don't, I think they were coming at me there, or whatever it is. But if you assume positive intent and assume that it was said in the best possible way, then you can be deductive from there. And if there's a reason to believe otherwise, then go for it. But
yeah, it's funny. Like, an intention is such an interesting concept, because you can have good intention yet still be on the other side of any of those behaviors at all times. And your intention may have been, yeah, because your intention may be completely different than what the other person may want. Now what happens? And we have examples, I'm sure, of what that is, the other side of good.
Yeah, that's it. And so I think, you can look to the law, right? Like, intent is important, but it's not the end all. And so intent, I think, is pretty foundational to things. And then actions and results are really what carry the intent into the full delivery of good, per se.
It is. That's interesting, because I like how you're using the word good way. And there is that good way. And you, right? That's really what you're talking about. It's a behavior, it's a value. You've chosen values over behaviors. So our values drive those actions and behaviors. And I see how you're saying that around laws as well. Or do you have you have a legal background, it sounds like, because
No.
it's just interesting how you applied it, because it is, there are laws of living, of communicating and being. How does it go to with your clients too? Because you have a lot of specific branding work, transformation work, analytics work. I've seen that it's impressive what you do. And so I
Yeah,
wanted
thank
to
you.
get into that. So, yeah, some of the work you do, and perhaps even the brands that you work with and how that plays out with the brands and companies. Because I saw you work with a lot of franchises, a lot of larger global brands that require a lot of translation and work across the globe. And what does that look like? And how do you get involved at that level with you?
I think, this is where it comes down to whether you're in marketing or you're in HR or you're in operations. I think folks and many companies that are specialties in those areas or in any area tend to think about their function and how they then contribute, and they want metrics, which is great. But at the end of the day, the CEO has business goals, and the CFO is trying to make sure that every dollar that is spent contributes toward reaching those goals and returns a greater amount than was spent. And so I think that when, again, whether it's marketing agencies, which we see all the time, but there's, of course, folks in HR or logistics or whatever it is, they say, well, what's my budget? But that's the wrong question. It's what's our growth target? What are we trying to achieve? What is the revenue target we're trying to achieve? And then how can I spend as little money as possible to contribute my portion? And that's just not how most folks look at it. But as marketers, I think that's the best way to look at it, because as marketers, it's important. There's always this inherent tension between the chief marketing officer and the chief financial officer. Chief financial officer says, I don't know what marketing is delivering. I don't know whether it's, how to measure it. And I think it is the marketing agency's job to support that CMO to say, here's how here's statistically significant reasons you can be confident in the results. And here is the incrementality value of things, right? Because it's easy for, as I always say, if the last person to touch a customer always gets credit, then the Walmart greeter made every sale Walmart's ever seen. And that's clearly not the case. And so, yeah, I think it's on external consultants and agencies like us and to support their main clients' drive to meet CEO and CFO goals.
That's interesting. So you really do help CFOs, CMOs to get to their goals with a different kind of slant to it. You're saying, I want to reduce your costs. It's not about budget.
Yes.
I want to get to your numbers. And that means that we have these levers that we choose that you should be most mindful of in digital marketing, digital transformation, right? In media that you have to press. And these are the best levers because they have the greatest chances of success and give better conservative estimates.
I think what sometimes marketers or specifically marketing agencies don't always recognize is that, if the budget is, $50 million, let's say, well, that last million to a CFO could be spent on R&D. It could be spent on a new factory. It could be spent on better insurance. It's completely fungible to the CFO. And it is on the marketer and the marketer's agency to make the case why that's needed, not valuable, because all money spent, I'm sure, in every function is valuable, but why it's needed to contribute to the goals. And so that's where incrementality comes in and a lot of other important metrics. But I think the other thing the other big trend in marketing that is happening right now, and I don't even know how often people stop and think about it, but is every industry undergoes a scientific transformation. And so, and I would encourage really anybody in any function to think about this. If you think about farming, in the late 1800s, there was someone who would, they'd take a bite of the wheat and say, yeah, I think it's about right. and and now today it's all 100% scientifically controlled and grown. And it underwent this scientific transformation. If you think about medicine in the late 1800s, it was here's some honey and here's some whiskey, you'll be fine. And that underwent a scientific transformation. Even tires on your car, I mean, now you need like a PhD in chemistry to innovate what's next in tires. Marketing, and really, I think all of the quote softer areas of business are undergoing a scientific transformation into using big data, statistics, analytics, and now certainly AI to transform how business is looked at. And I think that the sooner that folks, especially in marketing, embrace the need to understand the science, the sooner that they will help succeed and contribute toward those CFO goals.
And it's relearning the science, learning it again, because we have to think of things in such different ways. It's not just Chat GPT. It's these incredible amounts of AIs that can predict amazing information by the information it gives us and we give it. So we can actually train now AI to think better than we can.
Correct. And ChatGPT, for example, I kind of call it the HTML of AI.
Yeah, it's like an MPHP.
Yeah. It's the first major leap forward that's going to be a foundation for a lot of other things, but it's not the end game. And ChatGPT is amazing because it has the corpus of the internet from which to pull. Far more valuable to firms going forward, though, will be using a ChatGPT style software or service that is able to pour through its own data, through the company's own data, and through inventory, through logistics, through manufacturing, through people and HR, and really help the enterprise optimize in much faster and smarter fashions.
I just look at like what Dharmesh Shah is doing at HubSpot, the AI tool there, and tell us about how you foresee those kinds of tools, coming into play and how they're transforming how we think about marketing, digital transformation.
That plays right into kind of where I was going with the AI revolution that's happening. Is that it's nice to have AI on the for the corpus of the internet. But to have AI on your own HubSpot data, to have AI within your own customer data platform, within your own inventory systems, within your own point of sale systems, that is where the magic is going to happen. And so the companies that are looking to help take advantage of that, and ultimately what I think HubSpot's doing is awesome, but it's also going to have to connect to a NetSuite or other financial systems, et cetera, because it is about that full 360 intelligence within an enterprise.
It's interesting you said full 360 intelligence, because what the AI tools will do is integrate into those other intelligence areas.
Right.
And, finance, marketing, sales, like the whole suite, and even customer service. And it has implications for healthcare, for retail, for all service areas and product areas. So what does that look like for you at Goodway Group? Is that part of your suite of services where you help companies to transform in that way, finding the best technologies or even providing those technologies so people can be on top of it and really learn how to do that? Is that some of the things you're talking about with transformation of digital?
Yeah, so I think we're exceptionally early, and I think anybody who says that they have it all figured out with AI and marketing, I'd be wary, but yeah, it's thinking about how to get ready for it, because I think there are a lot of people who want to jump into it, and then they realize their data isn't in a place where it can even be discerned and joined. And so just digital transformation typically begins with smart data strategy and data hygiene. And so we've helped a number of different clients in those areas. And so, yeah, I do think that, yes, it's a love affair with AI right now. And it's exciting for everyone to be looking forward into the future on this. But that doesn't prevent us from needing to just do smart marketing as it exists today.
I agree. I totally agree, because here, because we're looking at a new generation. It's sort of like, what do we do when people haven't been brushing their teeth for 20 years and we have a new technology to brush your teeth, right? It's like, oh, you haven't brushed your teeth. I first have to work for a little bit of time, perhaps get your new teeth, work in the platter, so then we can work on to this new technology, but it's not quite there yet. So a lot of what you do probably in this hygiene moments are, let's look at the data, put them in the right cells, determine what are the right information that you need to know and what you want to work with, right?
Yeah.
Versus what you don't want to work with.
Yeah. So that's I think that's a huge part of it. I think it's also, back to the most loved workplaces kind of component is helping people understand how to embrace AI and weave it into how they evolve their career. And I saw a great quote somewhere that I've conveyed to our employees, which is, "You won't be replaced by AI, but you might be replaced by someone who learns how to and embraces using AI better than you." And so, from that perspective, I think it's really important for employees to, and we have, one of our digital transformation division, CVE, is already embracing and just testing everything they possibly can with AI to see where it's better. Because if it's better, why bother doing the longer human thing if you can just get AI to do it for you in a faster time? It will be that human and machine push and pull, and being in sync will enable will enable the best results, really.
And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is saying they don't think there needs to be a human in the loop. So they reduce funding. We'll just pay for AI, no human in the loop, and that's not true yet. For now, like what we have done too, we do sentiment. We've created our own sentiment analysis, emotion analysis, and thematic analysis that goes through thousands of points of data of employee comments, and then discovering what's the core themes, what are the core emotions, because we're most loved workplace. We need to know about love. And what is the general positive sentiment? Now that requires that we take lots of data and lots of surveys and constructs and put a human in the loop, the human in the loop, because we have to know first, what are our labels? We have to label our data. It's boring at first, but someone's got to do it. Someone's got to be an annotator, a labeler, the boring person in the data room who's going to talk the boring. Sorry, no, there are no boring people. The boring job, or which, by the way, there's people who love it too. So I'm not disrespecting anybody who've done that. I'm saying is actually, I love you guys. What you've done is awesome. So you have to appreciate that human part of it, and then we can create the AI part of it, and then the human has to keep going and expressing if it's right or wrong or not, because people get really angry when things are wrong. Period. We lost Jay, which is okay. It's been every time we lose Jay. Jay's at the airport. And what I was talking about with Jay is, and you guys can see this too, if you look up, just go to workplacely.com. You'll check out what we've been doing with thematic analysis, sentiment analysis, and emotion analysis. If we take your Love Workplace data or any data or comments that you've been doing, and we make them, and we actually look at the core emotions that are inside of these comments, because it's hard to do. Think of like hundreds of thousands of comments that you've gotten before. If you're anyone in HR right now and you've tried to put lots of comments in, or somebody in marketing, you have too many comments in there and you can't figure out the themes associated with them. What we've done at Workplacely, Most Love Workplace, if you go to workplacely.com, you'll see you could take that information and see what the core themes are, as well as what the general sentiment, positive, negative, neutral, of those comments are, and emotion. So think about the possibilities with this kind of technology. It's extraordinary. So you're going to now be able to not just by hand learn what those themes are and what you have to do every single time are. Now you're going to be able to do much more than that. You're going to be able to know the themes, give recommendations much more quickly than you ever had before. Jay, welcome back. We're talking about transformation of the digital age, and also of metrics and measurement, and how that works really within the digital transformation culture, and within also HR, learning how that impacts how we view employee data and what we can do with that employee data in new and different ways, so as not to just serve employees but serve customers.
A crucial component to that is really, I don't think we need to be statisticians or data scientists, but we need to have a basic understanding of statistics, because it's really easy for an enterprise of 40 people to do a survey and then think that AI is going to pull out all of the best analysis. But the reality is when there's only 40 people, there's only so much statistical confidence that can be gained. And one comment, what is it? The plural of anecdote is not data. And so it's really important for people to just take a balanced viewpoint of all of this going now and going forward, because it's not the answer to everything. It can't create data where it didn't exist.
Exactly. Yeah. So what Jay was just talking about is one play comment won't give you that much more information. What we're saying is taking a group of comments, right, and grouping those in, looking at the themes, and then discovering the sentiment around that, and then giving you an ability to make a decision on it. You get all these customer information and data from Glassdoor, from Indeed, from all of the various Yelp reviews, but you can't do anything with it. You don't know what is right or wrong after a long time. So if you get true, clear information that you can begin to place into categories, and then now you know what to do with that info, and you can make an actual action, have more of a data centric approach to taking action.
That's a really good point on like a Yelp or an Open Table. It would be really interesting to see how reviews or review sentiment does or does not correlate with availability and how much booking that a restaurant gets, because clearly there's a lot of people who just they only review when they want to complain, and so you may overweight or overview negative sentiment, but if the restaurant's booked solid for a year, then something's going right, actually. And so I think I think that's where we need humans to understand how to weight and value data, and again go back to the business goals, as opposed to when the metric becomes the target, it's become an invalid metric.
That's the beauty of AI, is that human in the loop can weigh those data points and those essentially those reviews that you're seeing. You're right. There can be massive amounts of traffic in a restaurant, but yet you only get all the negative reviews. All of a sudden, they start coming, right? Coming in the restaurant, and the reviews start going up and up and up, because we start weighing them differently, because we're realizing that sentiment is specific. It can be weighted more with positive review if the emotion is understood. So we're looking at things like optimism, right? We're looking at things like happiness, like optimism, hate, anger, frustration. These all weigh differently as emotions than sentiment. Sentiment is positive, negative, neutral. Then you have emotions underlying it. Those emotions actually trigger and change sentiment. And you're only asking for sentiment now.
Right.
We're saying one through five. It's like, it's different.
Yeah. Well, and people self-disclosing their own sentiment is generally not very accurate. But and that's where, as marketers, I think we have to, and that's where the scientific transformation of marketing can really help marketers and enterprises start to parse through. Because again, you may, whether it's an employee survey, an internal employee survey, or it's a Yelp or something like that, well, someone may have negative sentiment, but if you look at all 23 of their reviews they've posted and they're all negative, well, then you have to take that with a grain of salt. Whereas if you have someone who's got a very nice distribution of 1 through 5 stars, and it matches the universe, and they say something negative, then you should probably listen.
100%. And it's such a help, I'm sure, to your clients worldwide, is that they can now understand how best to work those, not just reviews, but how to enable the flow by understanding how customers really do things.
Yes, exactly. And it's the same internally with employees. I think, there's, I forget what the common thing is, but there's always 10 to 20% of employees who lead. they're change makers. There's 10% who always want to stay behind, and then there's the middle. And um, and so in an employee survey, you can really start to look at the very positive or the very negative comments and be swayed. And I think being able to have either questions or ways to, kind of like the Olympic diving thing, remove the high and the low and take the average of the rest.
It's right. The median. What we're looking at too is
Yeah.
methodology is very important. So, meaning if the methodology is do well, what people do well, and what you could do better, you've now shifted the conversation from being a person that is, or in any way, uh, a person that is thinking of what you did wrong. So that's negative immediately, to how can I help you become even better to serve me best? Hey, everybody, we're down at the 12:30 mark. We've been here with Jay Friedman, CEO of Goodway Group, who's on his way now to the airport. And it's been great seeing you, Jay,
Thank
on
you.
your walk on the Leader Show. So we can hear you a little bit. But Jay, all the best to you. We'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.